You are watching the New American Media. Zach, you have talked with us so far about the Cleveland Browns and the NFL. Then we talked about if the Browns are terrible, what's going on with the draft next year, who do they take? Could they take the young quarterback over in West Virginia who's thrown for 600-700 yards? Or could they go another direction and stockpile some draft picks and who's on the team? We've moved from that into the NBA, and we went right into your preview for the Eastern Conference, picking out who you think are going to be the 8 teams and in order which those 8 teams are going to be. Let's hop over here. We're in Los Angeles, so we have the Lakers and the Clippers in our backyard. Let's talk about the Western Conference. Who do you see being the best thing to come out of the Western Conference this year?
I think it's going to be the LA Lakers this year. I think the Lakers are going to be the number 1 seed. Mike Brown teams always do well during the regular season. Dwight Howard, is already, he's already warming up. He's playing now. They might sit him out early, but like I said, the Lakers it would shock me if the Lakers are not the number 1 or 2 seed in the West.
Steve,
so I'm going to go with the Lakers at number 1.
Wait, pause there for a
so
second.
Good this year.
Do you think Steve Nash? What impact do you expect to see with Steve Nash when it comes to both Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant? Because he's
I think you're going to see shooting percentages are going to go up, especially for a guy like Kobe. And it's going to be so much fun, honestly, to watch the pick and roll with Dwight Howard and Steve Nash. They're going to be so fun to watch.
I'm excited.
Right,
Steve Nash has been one of my favorites.
No matter how much you hate the Lakers, no matter how much people hate the Lakers, a lot of people who move out to L.A. that aren't Laker fans hate them. They cannot stand them.
Yeah, I do. But I like Steve Nash. I've always liked Steve Nash.
I'm telling you, Nash might only put up 8 points a game, but he's going to be averaging around 15 assists.
I like his passing. I have always prided myself. I mean, in our intramural league back in the day in high school, I mean, I'm not a pure basketball player, but I practiced really hard, and I thought I was good at playing some defense and boxing people out and a decent mid-range jump shot. I could hit the 3. I could rebound, and I loved the pass. I loved setting the screen or watching the screen and getting the perfect pass into the right position. I love that aspect of basketball, and I loved Steve Nash. And you're right. I think between Kobe to create off the dribble or grab a jump shot, or Dwight Howard slamming around down inside, it could be a hell of a fun offense to watch.
It's not even just their starting lineup, though. I mean, their bench, though, their bench is much improved. They wind up getting Antoine Jameson. You have a full year now of Jordan Hill. I really, really like what they did this offseason, just in general. You got to give Boston Kupchak credit where it's due. I think they went out there, and I think Oklahoma City. It's going to be tough for Oklahoma City to beat them this year.
Is that your number 2 team?
I think it's going to be really tough, and I think the Lakers are a very good matchup for I think Miami. They're very tough to beat. This year, especially for Miami, because Miami lacks a true center, and Dwight Howard has always dominated LeBron teams. He's always played really well against, always played well against the Cavs and dominates, and, especially they don't have a true center. Who's going to be guarding them? Bosh or Pittman, or Udonis Haslem, who's 6'9", that's not going to work. Bosh is going to have his hands full with Gasol, and I think you're going to see LeBron guarding Steve Nash or Kobe Bryant, because they're not going to have LeBron wasted on Ron Artest, defensively. So I think that's going to be, but we'll get to that point in a minute, about, when we start to progress in the playoffs. But, I see Oklahoma City as the 2 seed. I don't see, they're still a really good basketball team. They're going to be better than they were a year ago.
I think so, too.
It would shock me for them to be any worse, because those guys are just a year older and they're a year better.
What do you think the experience might have had on Kevin Durant? He was very disappointed that they lost the way that they did, in the finals, but then he trudges along and he gets a gold medal. What do you think that experience did for Kevin Durant?
I think it was just a learning experience. Everybody has growing pains. You can't just start off always by winning the title, right away, and he didn't. I think they just got beat by a better team, and I think he realized that. Miami was just better than the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was proven. The Thunder fought hard, but they just weren't ready a year ago. That doesn't mean they won't be ready this year, But, their number 1 challenge right now shouldn't be the Lakers. You have to get through the Western Conference, which is going to be extremely tough this year. This might be the best the West has ever been.
Ever?
But there could be 4 60-win teams in the West.
Okay, then who's number 3? We got the Lakers, we got the Thunder. Who's
number
3?
3, I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs. They seem to be resilient. They're still, they seem to be, I bet you they win around 60 games this year.
They're consistent.
I still like the Spurs. I think they just collapsed in the playoffs. I thought they were going to go to the finals this year. I think they were a really good matchup. I thought they were the one team in the West this year that could have beaten Miami. I said that all along. You know, I still, you know, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily believe that this year. You know, I think it all depends on the health of Dwayne Wade. But, you know, I think I still think the Spurs are the third best team. You know, it wouldn't even surprise me if the Spurs are the number one team in the West.
It wouldn't surprise you if the Spurs were better than the Lakers with all their offseason.
Regular season-wise, with the way the Spurs did last year, it would not shock me. I mean, they were so good down the stretch last year, it would not shock me if the Spurs. You know, Popovich is just such a good coach. Would not surprise me one bit. So I have the Spurs at number 3. Number 4, I have the LA Clippers. I think they are much improved again. You know, you get Chauncey Billups back. You have Eric Bledsoe for a full season. You know, you went out and you got Lamar Odom. You know, they had a lot of welcome additions to that team, too. And I think the Clippers are going to be – and they also got Grant Hill. You know, they're loaded at the 3 position this year. They have a lot of wings. I think the Clippers are going to – I think the Clippers can easily win around the high 50s this year. I think they're a really good team. So those are my top 4 in the West. Number 5, I have Denver. I think Denver is going to – I think Denver's going to be really good this season, too. Especially, you know, having Iguodala, you know, in Denver. I think he's a great addition to that team. And, you know, especially they're definitely going to be much improved. And then, you know, then this is where it starts to get tricky is with 6, 7, and 8. You know, I'm looking at it right now, and I probably say Dallas. I see Memphis in the 6th spot in the West. You know, they're still a 50-game winner to me, maybe even a couple more wins than 50. And then the 7th seed, you know, it depends if Rubio's healthy. I think Minnesota could be there, but I think they're more of the 8th seed. I think the 7th seed belongs to Dallas. You know, they're a completely new team this year, Dallas is. You know, adding Chris Kaman, Elton Brand, O.J. Mayo, they're a completely – and Darren Collison. They're a completely different roster than they were a year ago. Then I see Dallas sliding in the 7th spot in the West. And then I see Minnesota, if Ricky Rubio's healthy, they'll be the 8th seed, especially they added Brandon Roy, too. If not, I could see Utah being the 8th seed.
Oh, man. It's reminded me that the NBA season's really here. I mean, obviously we're talking about it. Obviously we both know it. But, you know, I've been so wrapped up in football and now kind of looking at the Major League Baseball playoffs. Man, we're going to have an NBA season again, and there's no lockout getting in the way. You know, there's...
Yeah, we have a full 82 games. I have to say, though, last year's lockout, that was one of the most fun seasons I've ever had watching basketball. And just for the reason, because it seemed like there were multiple games every night. You didn't have to wait every other night to watch your team play. You could just go and sit there. Your team would be on 4 to 5 nights a week, 5 nights a week playing basketball. It was great to watch. There was constant basketball every day, and I think that was the best part about it.
How did the players like it? Was there a general
they
consensus?
didn't like it at all.
They couldn't stand it.
It was horrible. There were more injuries in the condensed season. Don't forget, they lost 2 full months of the season. 2 full months of the season last year, and only lost 16 games. So just think about that. That's 16 games in 60 days that they lost. That's it.
Wow, 16
So they
games.
condensed the season. Everything was, you had teams playing 3 nights in a row at one point last year. You never see that in the NBA. Very rare do they play back-to-back nights. It happens a couple times a season.
Well, they should be set for, 9 more years on this CBA?
Yeah. Just hopefully it doesn't turn to the NHL, because just as soon as hockey starts to get popular again, they're already back in another lockout.
I can't believe they're doing that. That is crazy to me.
They've already canceled the first 2 weeks of the season. There definitely won't be an 82-game season in hockey. I can tell you they'll be lucky to even have a season this year.
In the NFL,
I'm not going to say they won't have a season, because I haven't been following the lockout too heavily. The NHL has been so focused on with work right now in basketball and just with the NFL and college football. With those 3 things, I've been so focused. The NHL has taken a back seat. But the NBA this year is primed to come out. The NBA will have its highest ratings ever if the NHL is locked out this year. Just because last year they had their highest ratings ever last year. And even that was during a locked out season. The finals had its highest ratings. I can tell you right now, though, the NBA is primed to have, a big year.
Hey, let me get a bonus question or two out of left field here. What we do on Strictly Browns, we just call it overtime, but unrelated to the NBA or to the NHL. What do you think is going on with Los Angeles and the stadium. Do you think that a deal is in place to grab a team? Do you think the Browns could be on that block with the new owner who says, "Oh no, trust me, I'm staying"?
Not one bit. I can tell you right now, the Browns will not be moving from Cleveland.
Okay.
Part of the deal is Jimmy Haslam's already living in the Lerner's house now, and whether it's I think it's in Pepper Pike, or Hunting Valley. He's living. That part of the deal is when he bought the team, he got Norma Lerner's house too. He will not be moving the team. He's already looking to improve the stadium. He has no plans on moving the team. None.
So
I can tell you that
going
right now? So let's just start with that one.
All right.
But I think the most likely candidates to move to LA at this point, they did approve the stadium. So, and I can tell you right now, they do not want a situation like Tampa, where they built Tropicana Field 30 years ago, and then they got a team 20 years later. That stadium was 20 years old by the time they got a team.
Jeez. Yeah, that's like
the game was built in the early '80s.
That's like getting a very old, beat-up car as your 16th birthday present, and you're like, "Hey,
but
thanks."
But it's been unused. It's been sitting in a garage for 15 years. That's the thing. It's like, son, we just got you a 1998 Toyota Camry. It had 0 miles on it. It's never been driven, but here you go. That's honestly like what it's honestly like what you're getting.
So do you think that they could expand?
The
do you think they could expand? Because LA could support. Well, I mean, they haven't been able to support much of anything, but people are saying maybe they get 2 teams like the Lakers and the Clippers.
Absolutely not. I just don't see. If they get 2 teams, it's going to be the Rams and the Raiders. I'll tell you that right now. That's if they get 2 teams. But otherwise, no way, because they couldn't support 1 team back in the day. Why give it? I know they're the nation's 2nd largest market, but they have problems supporting 1 team, let alone 2.
So is it going to be a new team on expansion, or is somebody going to bolt?
I can tell you it won't be. I highly doubt it's expansion because the NFL has a perfect scheduling in place right now. You have 8 14 divisions. So they're not going to disrupt that. I can never see them disrupting that. That's number 1. Number 2, the way the schedule works out is every year you face the 3 teams in your division. And then you and your division all have the same opponents when you guys, like let's say this year the Browns are going and facing the NFC East this year. So do the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals. They all face the NFC East this year. And then you based on where you're in the division, we played the 2 lowest teams. So we wind up getting Buffalo and Indianapolis because we both finished last in the division last year. Unlike where Pittsburgh, who won the division, or Baltimore, I don't know who won the division last year, would wind up facing the Houston Texans because they won the division last year. So that's how it works. The NFL is a perfect scheduling in place. It's by far the most fair. I just don't see any way around that. And, the problem is if you add a 15 to a division, it screws up everything. It screws up absolutely everything with the NFL schedule.
Who could be going?
You lose your perfect schedule.
So who could be going? And by the way, we're extending this here because you still haven't given us who's going to meet in the NBA championship. We'll get to that in a second as far as your prediction. But who would be likely then in the NFL to bolt to Los Angeles? Because it's big news out here. It's kind of under the radar, but
I'm going to go with I'm going to say I still think the San Diego Chargers are having problems selling out their games. They cannot get a new stadium. I've been to Qualcomm for a couple games before, especially against the Browns. That stadium is miserable to watch a game in. The lower deck, you have to stand up the entire game because it's meant for baseball. Because the players block you, so you have to stand up. I've been fortunate to be on the plaza level over at San Diego at Qualcomm a couple times I've been there. But from one side, you can only see the scoreboard. The other one, only the video board. It's not a good place to watch a football game. It's a terrible stadium.
So you would say the Los Angeles Chargers?
I would say the Chargers are likely. I would say the Bills could still be 10 years away because they're not moving until Ralph Wilson passes. And, and I don't think there are any owners that I don't know that would necessarily keep the team in Buffalo. But if Ralph Wilson were to pass away in the next year, I could see the Bills being the most likely team. I mean, hopefully not. Buffalo's a good football town. I like that Buffalo has a team.
And then there are the Vikings.
I think the Vikings, if they don't get their new stadium approved, the Vikings move as a candidate, especially a team like the St. Louis Rams, because Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, is a Los Angeles-based developer. He owns the Nuggets and he owns the Avalanche. But in order to move the Rams, I believe he has to sell the Avalanche to the Nuggets.
Wait, hang on. He would have to sell the Avalanche. Why?
Because you're not allowed to own 3 sports teams that aren't all in the same city. They all have to be in the same city.
You can't own 3 sports teams unless they're all in the same city.
Yeah, there's a certain rule with that. So Kroenke could wind up moving the Rams, especially because he's in a battle right now with the city of St. Louis to try to upgrade the Edward Jones Dome, and that isn't working right now. So I actually think the Rams might be the most likely team to move. It just depends with Kroenke and what he's doing. But, I mean, it doesn't sound like you're not hearing much on the Chargers front right now. And even the Raiders, I just don't know if the city of Los Angeles wants the Raiders back.
I went to a Jokeland game, and man, that was a rough stadium. Let me tell you, that was a rough.
There was a lot of gang
people.
violence because of the Raiders in the early '90s, and you hear people all the time saying, "We don't want the Raiders back." They're not good for the city.
I thought it was work release day. I'd never experienced anything like it. I was not a fan of that environment at all.
I think the Raiders are like that, and then I think another team that always seems to get brought up are the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Shahid Khan has basically said multiple times that he is not moving the Jaguars.
Well, I know that I have a certain having followed the Browns, and I'm wearing my Cleveland Browns shirt right now. Watching them move to Baltimore, I don't wish that upon any other franchise. I'm happy that Los Angeles, it looks like they're going to get a team. I don't want it to be stealing it from another city. I really don't want to see it.
I don't like that either, but if it had to come from any city, the only cities I really wouldn't feel bad for are the St. Louis Rams. I would not feel bad for the city of St. Louis at that point. They went and took the Rams anyways from Los Angeles to begin with. They don't really support them. They're in a dome. It's nothing special. Like I said, I could care less if St. Louis loses their team. I really could. Jacksonville's another. They don't support the Jaguars anyways. It's teams like Buffalo you have to feel sorry for, Minnesota, because the fans, though, both cities have great fans. And, that's where it would really just, and I'm just going to say it would really suck just to see those two cities lose their teams.
Well,
because, Buffalo has a very passionate blue-collar fan base, and Minnesota has a very, they have a very, the Vikings are very popular in Minneapolis and just, in St. Paul, everywhere around the whole state. It'd be sad to see them go too. Those are two teams I really hope that don't move.
And it's a historic franchise. It's a historic franchise. If the Chargers moved
up to L.A., it's not the end of the world. You can still be a Chargers fan and come to Charger games.
Yeah, it's just 2 more hours of driving,
It's not a big deal, And if the Rams move, they don't have a ton of support in St. Louis anyways. If St. Louis is strictly a baseball town. If you move the Cardinals out of St. Louis, I'd feel horrible, But I feel really bad because it's a baseball town, But it's the Rams. The Rams are the third show in town behind the Cardinals and the Blues. And then Jacksonville, like I said, can't support their team. Even if a team like Miami, I know Miami wouldn't move, but again, I could care less if the Dolphins move too. I have no sympathy for the fans in Miami.
Could LeBron James have something to do with that?
It has nothing to do with LeBron James. It's just they just don't care. It's a transplant city.
Could the Marlins have any? Well, same with Los Angeles. Half the people in Los Angeles were from somewhere else.
But the Los Angeles area has 18 million people. The Miami area has 5 million people. Wow. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the main difference here. And what I'm trying to get at too is that Miami, the Marlins, they have a brand new stadium. Under 2 million attendance. They just broke 2 million in attendance, which is nothing. They had 2 measly sellouts all year for a brand new stadium. The Heat, nobody seems to even care about the Heat down there. Nobody cares about, the Dolphins. The Dolphins have problems selling out. If you watch a Dolphins game, half the stadium is empty every home game they play.
That's harsh.
It's just true. The fans don't care about
Did you
sports
see?
down there.
Did you see the University of Miami, the Hurricanes? They had a game.
Oh, they had like 8 people at the game last week.
Oh, I saw a photo of the stands. That place was beyond empty. It was way beyond Municipal Stadium during the horrible years of the Indians. It was empty. You could count the 300 people in the stadium. It was insane. I couldn't believe I was looking at it. Wait, we lost him. Let's bring him right back.
Hello?
Yeah, we were talking about the empty stadium at the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate a college team can't move, but they have no support. I don't even think if they were a 12-game winner, they wouldn't be selling out.
Okay, maybe the Miami Hurricanes will move to Los Angeles and become the Los Angeles Hurricanes.
The University of Miami Los Angeles Hurricanes. Yeah.
University of Miami at Los Angeles. All right, let's move over to this real quick. Let's wrap up the NBA here, and then we will get the final prediction. Let's figure out who you think is going to be the NBA champion and who's going to meet in the finals. But really quick, just do me a favor. Address these. Well, hang on. Let's do this. Brief station identification break. We'll split this up into another segment on thenewamericanmedia.com and youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia after the fact. Because what I'm thinking is let's do in this last segment here. I want you to kind of respond to the Charles Barkley comments, the Shaquille O'Neal comments, and then who we think is going to meet in the NBA championship and ultimately win this year. My name is Brian Engelman. You're listening to thenewamericanmedia.com's The Unhappy Hour. Live Cleveland-centric, Los Angeles-based sports show here on thenewamericanmedia.com.